welcome to the debate. So, if you're a woman, your AI might actually be talking down to you, and there's proof.
Yeah, real, undeniable proof.
Right. We are looking at this huge stock of recent tests, everything from everyday chats to major medical cases. And they show AI changing its tone and its answers based on gender alone.
It's wild.
It really is. Today, we are diving into real experiments. We're looking at a massive test of social care records by researchers in London and cardiovascular tests by medical researchers just to figure out what is really going on inside these machines.
Exactly.
We are going to walk through the strongest evidence, sort of like a detective story, where each study is a clue that builds the case. Now, I argue that these tools are a dangerous reflection of a broken world, deeply infected by a history of dismissing women. And frankly, we should be alarmed that they are already making health decisions.
I argue that this bias, it is not hardwired into the tech. It is a choice. And because we can test for it, we have the power to demand AI that treats everyone equally.
Well, let me lay out exactly what we are dealing with here. Women are noticing a pretty obvious pattern when they use ChatGPT or other bots. The AI gets softer, simpler, and more soothing with them?
Yeah, like it's patting them on the head.
Exactly. It treats them like they need to be managed. But this goes far beyond just a condescending tone. Researchers took identical medical cases and swapped the patient's gender and nothing else. They used the exact same symptoms.
Right.
The result? Totally different answers. Women's pain got blamed on stress. Women were described as managing well despite their problems. But men with the exact same physical issues, they got called disabled and unable.
Which are words that actually get you medical help.
Yes, and over half of England's local councils are already using these tools to help decide who gets care. The stakes here are immense.
Look, the contrast is shocking. I completely agree. It is really uncomfortable to read those results. But I have to push back on the idea that this technology is inherently dangerous.
How so?
Well, here's the twist. The AI doesn't hate women. It just learned from us. It read a history of medicine that was tested mostly on male bodies and safety tests built around crash test dummies shaped like men.
Right, it's a mirror.
Exactly. And this isn't inevitable. In that exact same London study you mentioned, one AI model showed zero gender gap, none, while another from the exact same year was the worst offender. So the bias isn't a permanent feature of the code. We can fix it.
I mean, maybe, but it is incredibly frustrating when an AI talks down to you right now. Let's look at this fascinating study on financial advice. Researchers asked the AI for investing tips.
Oh, I read this one.
Yeah, it's crazy. When the AI thought it was talking to a woman, it used simpler words, it used a commanding tone, telling her what to do rather than suggesting options. It pushed women towards safe, low-risk choices, and it pushed men toward starting businesses and taking leaps.
Right, but I think we have to look at the underlying mechanics to understand why that happens. The AI is not sitting there making a conscious judgment. It builds this massive, invisible map of language based on billions of pages of human writing.
Right, the training data.
Yes. In that map, words are like physical locations. Because of centuries of literature, magazine articles, and internet forums, the word woman is physically clustered closer to words like safe, coupon, and calm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the word man is clustered closer to words like risk, bold, and business. So when you ask it a question, it just calculates the shortest distance between words on that map.
Which basically makes it a cultural sponge that has soaked up our worst stereotypes, and now it's squeezing that dirty water back onto the user.
That's a vivid way to put it.
I mean, imagine you have two browser windows open side by side. On the left, a man asks the AI for help with a stressful day at work. The AI responds like a buddy. It gives him detailed, logical steps to solve his problem.
Right.
But on the right, a woman asks the exact same thing. The AI tells her to calm down, take a deep breath, and seek help. It manages her emotions instead of fixing her problem. It automatically assumes half the population needs to be spoken to like children.
I absolutely hear how insulting that is for the user, but think about what happens when you train a machine on the entire internet. The AI has ingested centuries of movie scripts where society tells women they are being dramatic and tells men to take action.
Sure, it's repeating what it read.
Right. It is trying to provide what it thinks is good customer service by giving you the pattern it read the most. It is just trying to fit in with the world it was trained on.
I see the logic of the map, I do. But it stops being an annoying customer service issue when we bring this exact same pattern matching into a hospital room. That is where this turns from a frustration into an actual life-threatening problem.
The medical studies?
Yes, medical researchers ran the exact same heart attack symptoms through the AI twice, once as a man, once as a woman. And the AI got the woman's diagnosis wrong way more often.
Yeah, the numbers on that study are just brutal.
They ran 15 different heart conditions through the system. Out of those 15, the AI assumed 14 of them were happening to a man.
14 out of 15.
14. It practically forgot women have hearts. And, well, here is the worst clue in this whole detective story. When researchers added the word anxiety to the list of symptoms, the AI completely changed its mind about the women.
Wait, just from adding one word?
Just from adding anxiety. It decided the women's physical chest pain was just in their heads.
See, it fell right back into that map of language. The word woman and the word anxiety were so close together in its training data that it psychologized the pain. It assumed the chest pain was just stress.
Exactly. But for the men with anxiety and chest pain, the AI told them to get to a hospital immediately because they were having a heart attack. Same symptoms, different answers. This wasn't a fluke. It happened over and over.
It is terrifying, but consider that human doctors already do this.
Well, yes, that's true.
The AI is just exposing the ugly truth of our medical history. For decades, women's pain was dismissed, women were excluded from medical trials, we didn't even know what a heart attack looked like in a woman for the longest time because we only studied men.
Right, the symptoms are actually different.
Exactly. Men get the classic chest-crushing pain. Women might get jaw pain, fatigue, or nausea. The AI read the textbooks, and the textbooks were wrong.
And because it read wrong textbooks, it is actively giving wrong, dangerous medical advice today.
Yes, but let's compare this to physical engineering. Think about crash test dummies.
Okay.
For decades, car safety was tested on dummies built like an average 170-pound man. Because of that, belted women had a 73% higher risk of serious injury in a car crash. The whole system of safety was built for a male default.
Right, so the AI is basically a digital crash test dummy built for men. It is doing the exact same thing.
It is, but here is the critical difference. You cannot redesign, build, and test a physical fleet of cars in a weekend. You cannot retrain an entire generation of human doctors overnight.
No, obviously not.
But we can test an AI in an afternoon. Yes, it is a digital crash test dummy, but it is one we have the power to reprogram right now.
I see the optimism there, I really do. But look at the logistics of reprogramming it. If the data itself is poisoned, the map of language you described is poisoned. Look at the study out of London on adult social care. This shows exactly how hard it is to just pull a lever and fix the problem.
Oh, the study with the real patient records?
Yes. Researchers took over 600 real case files of people needing social care, things like home visits, nursing help, or physical support. They swapped the patient's gender and nothing else.
Right.
They ran it through the AI to create thousands of summaries. When the patient was listed as a man, the AI used words like disabled, unable, and said he had a complex medical history.
Words that trigger action.
Exactly. Words that tell the local government, hey, this person needs a nurse today. But when the patient was a woman, the AI softened everything. It said she requires assistance. It said she is managing well despite her problems. It completely downplayed her physical needs.
It used euphemisms, again falling back on the idea that women endure things quietly.
And in the real world, a euphemism means you don't get funding, you don't get a wheelchair, you don't get home care. If a social worker uses an AI summary that says Mrs. Jones is managing well, the social worker moves on to the next file.
Yeah, they have a huge caseload.
Right, so Mrs. Jones doesn't get the home visit, she falls and breaks her hip. Over half of local councils in England are using these tools right now to summarize notes and save time. We're talking about machines making tiny vocabulary choices that have massive physical consequences.
I agree, the consequences are massive. But wait, let's pause on that London study, because you are leaving out the most important finding.
Which is?
It wasn't just one AI model they tested. They tested a few of them, and the results proved that this behavior is not an inevitable, unsolvable problem.
How did it prove that?
2 different AI tools, built in the exact same year, had totally different results. The one from Google was the worst offender. It did all the downplaying you just talked about. But the model from Meta, it showed 0 gender gap.
Wait, really? 0?
None. It treated the men and the women exactly the same. Mrs. Jones got the exact same urgent wording as Mr. Jones.
That is interesting. But honestly, doesn't that just mean it's a roll of the dice? If a city council happens to buy the wrong software, the women in their town get worse health care.
No, I think it proves that this is a choice made by the engineers. The meta model proves we can fix the map of language. The engineers essentially sat down with the AI and corrected its behavior.
How?
They use a process where human testers look at the AI's answers. If the AI gives a weak, dismissive summary for a woman, the human hits a button that tells the system, "No, that is wrong, try again." If it gives an equal summary, the human rewards it. They literally reshape the map. They move the word woman away from managing well and closer to complex medical history.
Okay, but think about the sheer scale of doing that. It relies on engineers manually catching every single stereotype. You fix the heart attack issue, but what about the lung cancer issue? You fix the social care summaries, but what about the legal advice summaries?
Well, sure, it's a lot of ground to cover.
You cannot possibly catch every single way the AI is going to insult or dismiss a woman until after it has already happened. It is a massive game of catch-up.
It is a massive game of catch-up, I don't deny that, but the whole point of these studies is that they act like a spotlight. For years, human doctors have been sending women home from the emergency room telling them it's just a panic attack, when it's actually a heart issue.
Sadly, yes.
And that human failure is incredibly hard to track and even harder to prove. A woman leaves the hospital feeling crazy and there's no data trail. But with the AI, the researchers just swapped the gender and proved it instantly. We caught the AI red-handed.
So the argument is that the AI's failure is actually a good thing because it leaves a paper trail?
I am saying it is a mirror that forces us to look at our own history. And unlike human history, we can wipe the mirror clean. If a city council is buying software, they don't have to just roll the dice. They can run a quick test. They can say, hey, we ran identical male and female symptoms through your product, and it treated them differently. We are not buying your software until your engineers fix the map.
Look, I see the hope in demanding better testing, I really do. But it puts the burden entirely on the people buying the software to catch the mistakes of giant tech companies. Do you honestly think an overworked social worker or a busy hospital administrator has the time to run thousands of test cases to see if their new software is treating women differently?
They shouldn't have to. The researchers are doing it for us. The medical experts and the data scientists are creating the tests.
Right.
Once the test exists, it becomes a standard. Just like we finally forced car companies to use female crash test dummies. We didn't ban cars, we forced the testing to get better, and we made it a rule before the car could be sold.
The difference is that cars are made of steel and plastic. AI is made of language, and language is incredibly slippery. The AI doesn't just look for a box-checked female, it looks for clues.
Right, it infers things.
Exactly. If a user talks about certain hobbies or uses a certain style of speaking, the AI guesses they're a woman and changes its tone anyway. It is incredibly hard to regulate a machine that is constantly shifting its personality based on invisible coordinates.
It is complex, absolutely. But it is just math. And we are getting better at the math every single day. The researchers in these studies literally just created the test to measure the problem. If you can measure it, you can manage it. You run that test before you release the software. If it fails, it doesn't ship.
Let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. What does it actually say about us that our greatest technological achievement to date, a machine that can read and summarize human history in seconds, immediately started talking down to women and dismissing their pain?
Well, it says that our history is flawed. It says that we have a lot of baggage. But I honestly think it is a gift to finally see it mapped out clearly.
A gift?
Yeah. For years, women have said, I feel like I'm not being listened to at the doctor. And society said, oh, you are just imagining it. Now we have mathematical proof. The machine read all the doctor's notes and proved exactly what women have been saying all along. The doctors really were dismissing them. The textbooks really were written for men.
I agree it is a powerful piece of evidence about our past, but I worry that we are replacing human flaws with machine flaws, and machine flaws are much harder to argue with.
Why do you say that?
Because if a human doctor dismisses your pain, you can get a second opinion. If the hospital's central AI calculates your symptoms and says you are fine, the nurses and doctors are going to trust the machine. It carries this false authority. People think, well, the computer read 1 million files and it said nothing is wrong, so it must be true.
Which is exactly why we cannot treat these machines like magic 8-balls. We have to treat them like tools that need constant calibration. There are actually cases right now where women are finding the AI more helpful than human doctors.
It is great if it occasionally gets us right, but isn't that just a lucky roll of the dice? If the system is fundamentally flawed, an occasional correct guess doesn't justify putting it in local government offices.
It is not a guess, though. It is the pure computing power cutting through the noise. There are cases where women went to human doctors for years with chronic pain or strange symptoms, and the doctors dismissed them. Then, out of desperation, the woman types all her symptoms into an AI.
And what happens?
The AI says, have you considered endometriosis? Or, this looks like an autoimmunation. The woman takes that printout to a doctor and finally gets a diagnosis.
Just because the AI didn't look at her and decide she was just complaining.
Exactly. The AI doesn't get tired. It doesn't rush you out of the room after 15 minutes. It looks at the data. Yes, sometimes its map of language leads it to a terrible conclusion, like we saw with the heart attack study. But other times, its ability to scan 10,000 medical journals in a second finds the exact answer a human missed. We don't have to throw the technology away. We just have to demand transparency about how it is built.
Well, we have covered a lot of ground today. Let's summarize where we stand. My position is that the evidence from these studies is undeniable. Right now, today, AI is repeating our worst history. It is dismissing women's physical pain in medical scenarios. It is softening their needs in social care records, literally using words that deny them help. And it is talking down to them in everyday chats. This is a massive danger right now because these tools are already out in the wild, making decisions that affect human lives, and they are infected with the flaws of our past.
In my position is that while the AI absolutely reflects our past mistakes, it is a mirror we can finally clean. The issues you mentioned are not a permanent feature of the technology. The proof is that fair, equal models already exist, built in the exact same year as the flawed ones. By using human testers and adjusting the map of language, we can fix it. We now know how to test for this. We can swap the gender, check the results, and demand better from the companies building them. The AI is basically exposing the flaws till we can finally fix them.
This research takes something we thought was purely mathematical and shows how deeply human and deeply flawed it really is.
Completely. I think we still disagree on exactly how dangerous the current tools are in this exact moment, but we definitely agree that there is so much more to explore in how these systems map our language and how they are tested.
Absolutely. We've seen how murky the landscape can get when human history feeds the machine. So the next time you open up a chat window, take a second to look at the words it gives you. Look at the tone, who does the AI think it's talking to, and more importantly, why?